Brothers and sisters, and happy Thanksgiving to you that are here in the U.S. We are celebrating Thanksgiving today, you that are viewing this live, and of course, the playback. If you're viewing playback, we're still in the Thanksgiving season. In fact, in the holiday season, where we're about to celebrate the coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Christmas season. And of course, those of you that may not be a part of the U.S., but are viewing this other parts of the world, it is still time to rejoice and be glad, because this is the day that the Lord hath made, and we are rejoicing and glad in it. Once again, we're grateful for all of you that have tuned us in, and I want to say thank you to all of you that have been tuning us in the times past. I see that our viewership is increasing. I think many of you are chiming in and telling us that you're being blessed. I'm making a lot of new friends because they've been seeing the broadcast, they've been seeing the presentation, and my heart is rejoicing. We certainly hope and pray that we continue to be a blessing to you via this media. And I want to encourage you would like to take these teachings. Again, the teachings, that the gift that the Lord has given me is for you, to bless you. Take this teach and show them in your church, show them in your Bible study, show them even amongst your family and friends and others, so that they may hear the word of the Lord, be inspired, and be blessed. Now, I want you to do this for me, as I ask you to do every Thursday morning. I want you to take this message. I want you to hit the share button so that this message can go out to others, that they might hear, that they might be blessed. And I think that's what's happening, why I'm getting so many new friend requests, because many of these people, I don't think I know personally, but I think because you are hitting the share button and other people are hearing this, they are being blessed and want to be a part of this ministry. So please do that. Hit the share button, and also let us know where you are viewing from. It's been such a tremendous blessing that I've been observing, that people have been all over the world, have been chiming in from places like Texas and Indianapolis and Uganda, praise the Lord, Nigeria, Kenya. I've been getting quite a few correspondents from Kenya, East Africa, and other parts of the world, and the part of these United States. So simply let us know where you are viewing from. It will bless my heart to know, and to know that we are being a blessing to you. Now, again, of course, this being Thanksgiving season, and I know that many of us are looking forward to today, spending the day watching football, spending time with family, having a nice Thanksgiving dinner consisting of turkey and all the other variables that go with that. We should be thankful to the Lord and remember why we are blessed, because the Lord is good, and not because we're necessarily good. We always have reason to thank God, and I thank God for mercy. His mercy endureth to all generations. I was ministering to the Portland Trail Blazers basketball team. They were in town. He recently played Chicago Bulls. And the reason I mentioned them is because, my God, practically the whole team came into the chapel session, along with members of the Chicago Bulls, but practically the whole Portland Trail Blazers team came, including coaches and trainers, and came to hear the word. And I ministered to them on the mercy of God. One of the things to be thankful for is that the Lord is merciful. Thank God. His mercy endureth forever. And we thank God today. We thank God. All right. Now, we want to go into the lesson today. And again, I want you to hit the share button. Let us know where you're viewing from. And we thank God, whether this be live or whether it be the playback. Still, let us know where you're viewing from. And we thank God for you. Now, this morning, I always, when I read this, I always find it very thought-provoking. I always find it very intriguing because of the dilemma that our people that we're going to read about here today, the dilemma that they were in, and their attitude toward the dilemma. First of all, there was a famine in the city. Let me set this up before I read from going to 2 Kings, the 7th chapter. But there was a famine in the city, and the famine had been so great because the Syrian king had surrounded, or the Bible said, besieged the city. He surrounded the city, which in fact is a military strategy to choke people out. If you have someone, rather than going and just kill them, just choke them out. Sometimes it takes a little more patience. You have to wait them out. But by choking them out means nothing can get in, nobody can get out. This is what the Assyrian king had done to Samaria. He had surrounded the city with his army. And as a result, famine had come into the land. And the famine was so severe until it said an ass's head, donkey's head, was being sold for so much. And people even purchasing dove dung, dove manure, and it was pretty expensive because of the seeds that was in the land. There was also a situation where two women decided to boil their babies. Oh, my God. They were so hungry until they killed their babies and boiled the babies and ate their own babies. That's how bad the famine had come into the land. And so while this was happening, outside of the gate, there were 4 lepers. I want to pick it up there and read. This is 2 Kings, the 7th chapter, starting in verse 3. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering of the gate. And they said one to another, why sit we here until we die? If we say we enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. If we sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall into the host of the Syrians. And if they save us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. Now notice this, because it's very intriguing to me that they sat and began to reason their situation and figured every option points to death. First of all, we're leprous. We're going to die. If we sit here in this death camp, we're going to die. If we go into the city, there's a famine, we're going to die. So let's start to weigh our options. Let's start to weigh what we have left. Well, there's one chance. We can go into the hands of the enemy that has besieged the city. And if they save us alive, we live. But if they kill us, well, we're going to die. So every option in one way or another points to death. But let's take the option that might deliver us. But notice what happened here. Verse 5, and they rose up in the twilight to go into the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made a host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of the great host. And they said one to another, lo, the king had hired against us the king of the Hittites and the king of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they rose and fled in the twilight and left their tents and left their horses and left their asses, even to the camp as it was, and fled for their life. Now notice what happened here. God sent a noise into the camp of the Syrians that sounded like armies besieging them, and they fled for their life. And they left so fast until they left food, they left garments, they left their horses, they left their the cattle, they left everything. They just ran and left everything. Notice what happened. And verse 8, and when these lepers came to the utmost part of the camp, they went into one tent and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid that. Because they did not want to die in a death camp. Because they did not want to die in a death camp. And using the title, they got a revelation in a death camp. Now, again, I find out, brothers and sisters, a lot of time we don't weigh our options. We can be in situations, and instead of looking at options, we just accept the fate. Well, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Or I'm going to lose everything. Sometimes your situation is not as severe as death, but because the reality is all of us are going to die one way or another. But I'll say this story real quick. I was looking at my pastor who passed almost a year ago now, and I went to visit him in the hospital, and he was a man who had determined that he was going to die on his own terms. And I admired that. He had been on dialysis and made up his mind, I'm not taking him on dialysis. I'm ready to go. And he just basically sat there and waited for the Lord to come get him. And he did. And I remember thinking, as I went to see him in the hospital and we talked a little bit and the family was there. And I remember thinking, Lord, I want to go out that way. I want to go out on my own terms. I don't want to die, screaming and running and all. I want to be able to just sleep away like my pastor did. I thought it was very noble, very honorable, very godly for that man to pass away that way. Well, I'm saying that to say this, that when we know that we're going to die sooner or later, these lepers were in a death camp. And notice what's in the death camp. First of all, there's no hope in a death camp, meaning this, there's no future. There's no future. The future is bleak. The future is grim. And how many of you can look at situations in your life that, again, may not be as extreme as death, but you're looking at situations that are bleak, that are grim, look like they're never going to get better. You know, you made up your mind that I'm going to be this way the rest of my life. I'm going to be in this situation the rest of my life. Well, don't throw out the options, because there's always a way. I would rather go down with a fight than just lay down and die. And that's the attitude they had. Man, listen, why sit we here and die? This is the worst place to die. We're down among dead folk. We're down among lepers. We're down among people that are dying. And you know, I must understand that leprosy was a very hideous disease. It's still in some parts of the world today. There's some that are contagious. There are some that are not necessarily contagious. Again, I'm not going to go into all that. But my point is this. When you're in a leper camp, generally it was because everybody was contagious. And leprosy is actually a deterioration of the physical body. It's not uncommon to see lepers missing their nose or missing ears or missing fingers, because it's a deterioration of the physical body, where the parts of the body just rot and fall off. It's really a hideous disease. And in biblical days, to be stricken with leprosy was almost like in this day and time to be stricken with AIDS. In most cases, if you're stricken with AIDS, because they have not really found a cure for it yet, and mind you, there's a difference between being HIV positive and having full-blown AIDS. Once you get AIDS, it's just a matter of time that you're going to leave here. That's why you have people that are HIV positive, but they're still faring well because they have not contacted full-blown AIDS as of yet. But in this particular day, when you were stricken with or leprosy, it was just a matter of time you were going to die. And so what happens? That eliminates future. That eliminates hope. That eliminates anything having to do with destiny, your ambitions, what you endeavor to do. You are in a death camp, and hence surrounded by death, watching people die, and you have a death attitude. Reminds me of the story of a fella I knew years ago who always talked about he was dying. I mean, that was just his attitude. No matter what you said, he would contradict you with, I'm gonna be dying pretty soon. I'm gonna be dying pretty soon. And I don't want none of y'all crying at my funeral, because I would have died in the Lord. That's the way he would talk. And I ain't gonna be around here much longer. And any subject you brought up, if you talked about how nice you look, man, you look nice. That's a nice looking suit you got on. Y'all really like this suit? Well, I think I'm gonna get buried in this suit, because I'm gonna die pretty soon. I mean, every conversation. Isn't it a beautiful day, brother? Yeah, but I ain't gonna see too many more days, because one of these days I'm gonna be dying pretty soon. I mean, that's the whole way he talked. Talked about dying all the time. Living and yet talked about dying. Living a good life and yet always talked about dying. Well, I think that's a miserable way to live, personally. I think that's a bad way to live, because you have a lot to live for. And look, like in this day and time, there actually is a spirit of suicide that is gripping many people through depression. Depression is causing people until you fall so deep into a funk until you just don't want to live. Well, that's a spirit. And I know, because I've experienced that, and the Lord brought me out. And I can testify to you that the Lord can deliver you from depression. I know, because I was in a depressed state and the Lord brought me out. Well, I'm saying that to bring this point out. Being in that type of environment can depress you. Being surrounded by death can suppress you. And you know what, brothers and sisters, sometimes I think we need to change our environment. Because again, the environment around us can oftentimes determine our attitude and how we deal with situations. It can get in your spirit. I've said this in teachings past. I'll share it with you again. The Lord began to deal with me concerning the spirit of a person. And this is why the Bible says, and I believe it's Proverbs 18:14, the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear. And I want to deal with that in just a few seconds, because when you're talking about the difference between the body and the soul, the body, soul, and spirit, we're actually 2/3 physical and only 1/3, 2/3 spiritual and 1/3 physical, of course. Well, there's a difference between the soul and the spirit. The soul is the conscious state of the person. The rich man that died in hell lifted up his eyes, had all five senses, had a memory, was conscious of who he was. That's the soul. But then you have the spirit. And again, quoting Proverbs 18:14 again, the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity. And the Lord dealt with me and said, when you're dealing with spirit, you're dealing with personality. Personality. Things affect your personality. Your spirit determines your personality. In fact, they're intertwined. Now, why is environment important? Again, the Lord dealt with me on this a number of years ago and said, because the spirit is like a sponge. What do you mean by that, brother preacher? Meaning that you can absorb. A sponge is used to sop up and to absorb things. Use a sponge when you're trying to absorb things on the counter, things like that. The soul of the spirit is like a sponge. It absorbs the environment. That's why you can't, if you're going to walk with God, you can't hang in every type of environment. You can't hang out in the club where they're smoking and drinking and cussing and lying and womanizing and all that. That's not the place for the people of God. Because believe it or not, you can absorb that into your spirit. And what happens? When things are absorbed in your spirit, they affect your personality. Again, the spirit of a man can sustain his infirmity. And then what does that basically deal with? It deals with attitude. It deals with attitude. Now, you can be in an environment, even in the church, when you got various cliques in the church, you can be among the clique that's always angry. They come to church and they're angry at everybody. They're angry at the pastor. They complain. The pastor preached too long. They complain about the choir. The choir won't sing right. They complain because they're raising the offering. They're always asking for money. They complain. You get around those people. After a while, you pick up their spirit. You start complaining. You get around sad people. And all they do is come together and cry, and it's sad, and they just rehearse what they're, and before you know, you start getting sad and crying right along with it, because your spirit is impressionable. It will absorb the environment. It can absorb what is around you. And this is why, if you're going to walk with God, you need to be in church. Did y'all hear me? You need to be in the house of the Lord. You don't need to be home, hanging out, what you do, but you need to be at least once a week. And I would encourage more than that. If you got Bible study and midweek service, you need to be in the house of the Lord, because that environment where the spirit of the Lord is, your spirit absorbs the environment. That's why the people of God have joy. The Bible said the joy of the Lord is our strength. What is joy? Joy is something that gets in our spirit and it affects our personality. You got some people that just joyous anyway. Now, I know folk that just laugh all the time. I kind of laugh at them for laughing at it, because I used to know a woman, and maybe it was a nervous habit, I don't know, but every time she comes, she'd say, "How you doing, Scott?" and just start laughing, and one time I just said, "What's so funny?" But she just had a jubilance in her spirit that and again, maybe it was a reflection of nervous habit, I don't know, but it's better than her laughing and coming at me cussing and mad, because I've met folk that are always mad. "How you doing?" How you feeling? When they try to be nice, they can't be nice, because they got that gloom in their spirit. "Well, I'm glad for you. Hope nothing bad happened to you." They're trying to compliment you, but they're hoping nothing bad. Well, sometimes because of what's in their spirit, their personality is affected by what's in their spirit. Now, let's go back to our individuals here in this death camp. If they stayed in the death camp, they would have walked in an attitude of death. What comes with that? Depression, hopelessness, sadness. It affects us physically. I found out that a lot of time when you are afflicted in your body, affliction in your body is not really the source of your problem. And I've said this even praying for people. Come pray for me, Rev, because I got trouble here and I got trouble there. And the reality is, what you're feeling physically in many cases is a reflection to deeper pains. You can carry pain in your spirit. You can carry heartbreak in your spirit. You can carry resentment in your spirit. You can carry anger in your spirit, see, because of events that have happened to you. And that's why, every now and then, all of us as people of God need to come to God and say, "Lord, deliver me." Because you can pick up things, because your spirit is like a sponge. You can pick up things as you walk through life. And understand what I mean by that. Doesn't mean that you're demon possessed. Doesn't mean that you're going to hell. Doesn't mean that the devil's got you. It simply means that as you travel through life, you can pick up certain things that will absorb and affect your personality. And that's why I say every now and then we need to come before God and say, "Lord, deliver me." I don't care if you're a preacher. I don't care if you're a deacon. I don't care if you're a choir member. I don't care if you're a lay member. Every now and then we need to come before God and say, "Lord, deliver me." In other words, take my spirit and squeeze all that stuff out. All the stuff I picked up, all the resentment, all the bitterness, all the anger, all of the attitude from bad experience. Lord, squeeze me out so that I might be full of your spirit. And that's why when God fills you with the Holy Ghost, he fills your spirit. And what happens? When God fills you with the Holy Ghost, it affects your personality. He said ought to. If he's the Holy Ghost, not talking about some other strange spirit, but the Holy Ghost affects your personality. Now, getting back to the point, if these men had stayed in this environment, they would have just died. But now, somewhere along the way, they began to stop and think and say, "Now, look. If we're going to die, And I got to tell you, I kind of like this attitude. If we're going to die, let's die trying something. What it boils down to? We're going to die. Let's not just lay down and die. Let's die trying something. Now, and they begin to weigh their options, which, even Jesus said, no man sitteth down to build up a house without, first of all, counting up the cost. Sometimes, brothers and sisters, it's a good thing for us to stop and, if need be nothing else, talk to ourselves. Weigh our options. Don't just give up. Don't just accept this way it's got to be. No. I'm coming out of this situation. I'm coming out of my dilemma. Doesn't matter how long I've been in this. Doesn't matter how bad my financial situation looks, or how bad my domestic situation looks, or how the devil is constantly talking to me, and believe me, he does, telling me all kind of things. Let's settle down here. Let's get in communication with God, because if God says the opposite of what the circumstances say, I believe God. Now, when you read this chapter, and I encourage you to back up a little bit to the 6th chapter. I'm not going to read it here, but I would encourage you to do it. Elijah told the people the night before this happened that God is about to bring healing, salvation. He began to talk about how everything is going to be so cheap because there's going to be so much of an abundance. And one of the lords of the king didn't believe it and said, how's God going to do this? He's going to open up the windows of heaven? And Elijah said to him, you're going to see it, but you're not going to be able to even participate in it. And the next day, when the people saw, and the lepers went back and told them what had happened, and the people went and took the garments. And notice what the lepers did. Now, mind you, they're dying, the lepers. But notice what they did. Not only did they go get something to eat, they took some good-looking garments. They got gold. They got silver. They got horses. Everything that the Syrians had left, they went and got. So, in other words, if I'm going to die, man, I'm going to die rich. Now, again, look at the attitude that they had. And you know what they did? Some things you can encounter that make you want to live a little longer. Have you ever had situations, of course, mind you, I don't know how many of y'all have actually been on death's door, but sometimes you can be discouraged with life. Sometimes you can be discouraged, you're ready to give up, you're disgusted, but then something happens. And it makes you want to pep up. Makes you rise up. Hey, man, I don't have to, things about to change. You see change. And sometimes you see it just a little bit of light over the horizon. But hey, day's about to break. I've been traveling through the night all night long. As the Bible said, when David said, weeping may endure for a night. I've been crying all night. But now I'm starting to see the day break over the horizon. I'm starting to see change. I'm starting to see hope. And you know what it does? It encourages you. And you know what? It probably, and the Bible doesn't record it, but I would not doubt in my mind if this action actually prolonged the life of these lepers. They were no longer in a death camp. They were no longer around people dying. They were no longer around the disease. And coming into this wealth all of a sudden gave them a hope. And they probably lived a little longer than they ordinarily would have lived. Well, I'm sure they would have lived a little longer than they would have living in a leper camp. And brothers and sisters, sometimes all you got to do is hold on until your change comes. Who's that said, in all my appointed, it's Job that said, in all my appointed time, I'm going to wait until my change comes, because Job knew that change was coming. It doesn't matter my present situation. It doesn't matter my present environment. Change is about to come. And I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And on my appointed time, I'm going to wait. Well, Reverend, what type of change? Well, it could have been a number of changes. The one that actually happened, that God brought him out, and Job was more wealthy in his latter days, the Bible said, than in his previous days, and he was already the richest man in the land. But sometimes you have to take the attitude, if the Lord deliver me by miracle, if the Lord take me to the other side. One of the things I think that we have to reemphasize, brothers and sisters, is that our wealth is not just in this world. Heaven is real. And I'm looking forward to going. And I'm going to tell you why I'm looking forward to going. Because some of these aches and pains in my body, praise the Lord, I'm looking forward to getting that glorified body. No more aches and pains, praise the Lord. No more disease, no more sickness. And I consider myself a pretty healthy man for my age, thank the Lord. Amen. I've got reason to rejoice and thank the Lord, because as the old folk used to say, and now I guess I'm moving to that category, I've got a reasonable portion of my health and my strength. The Lord woke me up this morning. He started me on my way. I have my sane mind, thank the Lord. All these things are things that we should thank God for. There's a saying, and I believe it to be true, that your attitude determines your altitude. Sometimes we become self-defeating because, again, looking at our circumstances. Notice this. These lepers did not accept their fate. And what sometimes happens is that people can hear bad news, bad diagnosis, bad situations, and we start to gravitate toward doom. You know, sometimes you need to ask yourself the question: if I'm gonna die, why am I gonna sit here and die? If I'm gonna lose everything, why just let them take it? If I'm gonna lose my house, they're gonna repossess my car. Look at my options. What else can I do? If I'm depressed, what options do I have, Lord? Some things we ought to take before the Lord. Some things we ought to simply just put in God's hands and trust the Lord to bring us out. Notice what Jesus said. Jesus said this in the 10th chapter of St. John. He said, I am come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. Now, let me be clear on this because I don't want you all to think that I'm jumping off into the prosperity doctrine where God wants to make everybody rich. God, oh, y'all gonna be millionaires. No, because that ain't gonna happen. Oh, y'all not gonna be millionaires. I'll never be a millionaire. You know, and again, I'm not saying that in a negative sense, but I'm saying it to bring out a point. And I would welcome if it happened, but if it did not, be content. Apostle Paul said, I've learned that whatsoever state I'm in to be content. What is the scripture that says patience with contentment, I think, or faith with contentment is great gain? I think is how it goes, something like that. Well, you know, sometimes you ought to just, instead of looking at what you don't have, which would cause a reverse effect on your attitude, start thanking God for what you do have. You know, as I said before, I thank the Lord I've got reasonable health. I've got strength. I can dress myself. I can get up in the morning. Amen. I usually, when I get up, I spend my time on the Lord on my knees. I thank God I have a mind to pray. But then I start thinking about simple things in life that I have. I've got clothes. I've got shelter. I'm not living in a mansion, but I've got shelter. I've got food to eat. Praise the Lord. I'm not eating prime rib every day, but thank God sometimes I get me a good hamburger and french fries. Thank the Lord. You know, all the simple things that we have. I'm, you know, not in jail. And some of you that may be looking at this may be, but start thanking God for what you have. There was a song we used to sing years ago, Count Your Blessings, name them one by one, count your blessings, see what the Lord has done. And then look at the simplicity of that song. And I guarantee you this, if you start counting them one by one, you're going to run out after a while because God has done so much for us that we can rejoice. Praise the Lord. You have a family. If you have a family, loved ones that love you, that you love them, thank the Lord. Amen. You know, no situation is perfect on this earth. See, this is the thing that television oftentimes does. It deceives us. And even when we talk this prosperity gospel, some people seem to think that if I had a lot of money, I'd be happy. It reminds me of the late Howard Hughes. And they did a movie on him not too long ago. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I remember him. Remember Howard Hughes as a youngster. He was a multi-millionaire. And toward the end of his life, he'd become a recluse. And they said that he'd become so paranoid, afraid of infection, afraid of germs, until he seclude himself. Nobody could see him unless they washed and sanitized themselves. His hair grew long and wild. He just became a recluse for fear. Now, all that money, and the man lived his final days in fear. Man lived his final days paranoid. Man lived his final days as a recluse, afraid of germs, he lived in a sanitized environment, so afraid of this, that, and the other. You know, that's a miserable way to live. And somebody says, man, if I had half that money, what I would do. Well, don't be deceived thinking that money is the answer to your happiness. You know, the Bible said the love of money, not money itself. Don't get me wrong and feel like money, it's wrong to have money. No, it ain't wrong to have money. You do better with it without it. We all know that. But the love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, when people start becoming scantless and devious for money and stepping on other people for money and killing folk for money, that's it's motive. Most of it is money. Why do you have organized crime? What's the motive? Money. Why do you have gangs in the cities and controlling turf? What's the motive of it? Money. Why do you have people that would lie on other folk and try to get promotions and step on other people? Money. Money is the motive behind it. But the money itself is not evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. I've jumped off. I don't want to jump off on that. But going back to the point, you're rich, and sometimes you don't know it. Sometimes you ought to look and see other people in their environment and not despise or look down upon them. But thank God you don't have it as worse as other people. I don't care how bad you have it. Somebody has it worse than you. All right, our time is up. Let me wrap this up here. 2 Corinthians 4:16 says, though the outward man perish, the inward man, again, that's the spirit, is renewed day by day. Hallelujah. God will renew, God will revive, God will make whole. And so, don't walk in a death camp thinking of death. In the midst of a death camp, we're going to rise up, we're going to rise out, and we are going to be blessed. Hallelujah. Thank God. God bless you, brothers and sisters. We thank God for you. Our time is up. Again, chime in, let us know where you are viewing from. Let us know. Let us know. Even after we've gone off the air, you can still let us know. Just chime in where you're viewing from. And again, as I said before, you that are in various parts of the world that are viewing this, I thank God for you. My brothers in Africa, my brothers in Pakistan, my brothers and sisters in India, my brothers and sisters in China and other parts of the world that are viewing this. Feel free to take these lessons and share them in your Bible study. Share them in your church. The Lord has given us a gift for you. God bless you. I believe that you are going to be blessed. Till next week, this is Scott Bradley saying we love you and we thank God for you. Pray for us, and we'll talk to you again real soon. I love you. I love you. I love you, Lord, today, because you cared for me in such a special way. That's why I praise you. I lift you up and I magnify your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise.